afternoon, everybody. Really appreciate everyone joining us this afternoon. Hopefully this will be a pretty informative hour or so of your time. I want to give a big shout out to Don Robison with he's our state seed commissioner, operating out of the office of the Indiana State Chemist, which he has taken on the Herculean task of creating a hemp production program here in the state from scratch with limited resources and limited teammates. So he's done a great job, and we really appreciate him taking the time to give us his perspective on some of the impacts that the federal action has had on Indiana and what that looks like for the 2021 season here in Indiana. So real quick, my name is Justin Swanson. I'm president of the Midwest Hemp Council. Again, thanks for joining us for this free webinar. We hope you find it informative. Here's a quick rundown of our agenda for today, at least for my part. And I'll probably go through these pretty quickly to help set the stage for Don in terms of why we thought this was a timely webinar, again, in reaction to what's happened at the federal level. So just a quick introduction of the Midwest Hemp Council, quick definition of hemp, although I'm sure most of you, everyone on this webinar now is fully aware of what we're talking about and what we're not talking about in Indiana. Quick rundown of the 18 Farm Bill, unpack that a little bit. Indiana's response to that federal flexibility, the DEA's infamous interim final rule that came out in August, USDA's interim final rule, which is ongoing, which has really stirred up a lot of questions in the industry, particularly in Indiana. And then what the impact, I'll set the stage for the impact of the 14 Farm Bill programs that President Trump just signed, I believe on the 1st of October. So who are we? We formally organized in 2018, and our mission is to stand as a credible information center, trusted policy advocate, and a dedicated trade organization for the entire hemp supply chain in Indiana and beyond. Our members represent nearly every aspect of the supply chain, whether it's a seed dealer, a clone dealer, a farmer, a distributor, a manufacturer, a supplier. So that's really been our focus since the start, is trying to build that supply chain to a point where it's reliable and people can really start trusting it and leveraging it for the benefit of the industry. This is a pretty neat graphic. We have about 300 members all over the country. So this is a good representation of kind of our footprint right now. Indiana is the crossroads of America, so we thought it was important to have at the very least, a regional impact on connecting farmers with end users and really help promoting and building that supply chain. So if you're not members and this is your first interaction with us, we encourage you to check out our website. It's down there at the corner of the slide, and give us a look. We'd love to have you or talk to you if you're interested. And just real quick, save the date. We're having this is our second Hemp at the Crossroads we've put on. Last year was a great success for our first one. So we've decided to do another one in Plainfield, Indiana, February 4th and 5th. We've secured the Indiana Lieutenant Governor, as well as Congressman Quarles, to come and address the crowd. So we really hope you take a serious look at either sponsoring or joining us February 4th and 5th in Plainfield, Indiana. Okay, so what is hemp? Again, I think you guys, everyone on this webinar probably knows what we're talking about, but it's the best way to summarize this is anything below 0.3% THC by dry weight that's coming out of the hemp plant is now a legal crop in Indiana. Indiana mirrors the federal definition of hemp that's provided with a catch, which I'll briefly touch on. And when you guys are talking to your legislators and other stakeholders, if you need help explaining or educating them on what we're talking about, I like to use the example of a German Shepherd and a Bulldog. These are both dogs, but people have bred them over centuries for different traits. For instance, German Shepherds are typically for protection, and the Bulldogs typically for sitting on the couch watching Sunday football. So just like hemp and marijuana, they're both part of the cannabis family, have been bred for different traits over centuries. So the 2018 Farm Bill is really a truly historic moment for the industry across the country. Permanently removed hemp from the Federal Controlled Substances Act. It designated USDA the primary regulator of hemp production. So that means it left no room for the DEA to claim any jurisdiction over hemp production. That's one thing that makes the DEA interim final rule a little frustrating because it seems to be flying in the face of congressional intent. Most importantly, I think it authorized states to submit a state plan to USDA for approval to ensure that their farmers are working with a state regulator as opposed to a federal regulator on their hemp growing. And it's important to note USDA will set up a program for states that choose not to submit a plan or don't have one approved. And I think Don will hit on that as well during his presentation. Black letter law prohibits states and Indian tribes from interfering with the transportation or shipment of hemp and hemp products produced in accordance with the 2014 and the 2018 Farm Bill. Again, that's important, especially since we're going to be having both 14 and 18 Farm Bills existing again, which I'll hit on towards the end of the presentation. Also very clearly allowed FDA to maintain jurisdiction over CBD products. We expect those rules soon. That's very sarcastically, which I don't expect any rules. There is some good federal legislation moving in the House that'll force FDA to treat CBD products like any other dietary supplement. So we'll be sure to keep a close eye on that as well. So how did Indiana respond to the 2018 Farm Bill and the flexibility found in it? General Assembly did a great job of passing legislation that was Senate Enrolled Act 516 from 2019. So the Farm Bill passed in December of 2018. A couple months later, Indiana set up a program to ensure we took advantage of this opportunity for our farmers. To give you some perspective, we did have a 14 Farm Bill program, but we grew as a state about 24 acres during that time. Last year, we licensed 5,300 acres, and Don will do a great job of breaking down some of the data and showing the excitement that Indiana farmers have around this new opportunity that we hope will take advantage of as a rotational crop. The Office of the Indiana State Chemist is our main regulator of hemp production in Indiana, and they issued emergency rules in December of 2019. So we do have rules that you need to operate under if you're either growing or manufacturing, otherwise handling hemp here in Indiana. So the DEA interim final rule. This, in my opinion, is kind of a nothing burger right now, and I think it's the DEA's last attempt at trying to kind of chill the market or kind of scare the market participants. So this is really in reaction to the 18 Farm Bill removing hemp and all of its derivatives from Schedule 1. So if you go to their website, these are some quotes taken off. At the end, they admit the interim final rule merely conforms DEA's regulations to the statutory amendments to the Controlled Substances Act that has already been taken in effect. So as soon as the 18 Farm Bill was signed, it didn't matter. We weren't waiting on any federal action in terms of rule updates for that to take effect. I think the biggest question this had on the industry right now is the idea that anything over 0.3% THC is a controlled substance, even if it came from a compliant hemp plant. So this is particularly concerning for manufacturers in the CBD world because for most processes right now, you run way over that 3.3% THC threshold. So I would just, I encourage everyone to review USDA's General Counsel's legal memorandum that he put out May 28th of last year. I think that it really has already answered a lot of these questions that the industry have as a result of this interim final rule. Just to play it safe, I believe some national groups have challenged this interim final rule out in DC. So they're going to be litigating whether DEA has the jurisdiction or they follow the proper protocols in issuing this regulation. I do encourage you to issue your comments. They're due October 20th. This is not the only opportunity for you to participate in the creation of hemp rules. USDA, as I will get into, also has that as well. And again, comments are due October 20th. So really encourage you to submit your comments to the DEA. Okay, so now most importantly, this is really what's generated, I think, a lot of the buzz or recent questions that we've been getting for the last couple of weeks. The 2018 Farm Bill required USDA to establish a national regulatory framework for hemp production. So really the key here is they want consistency and clear guidance for farmers to bring new and innovative products to the market. The key provisions of the interim final rules, that are required are information collection and reporting, sampling and testing procedures, disposal procedures, enforcement, yada, yada, yada. So there's a floor that USDA wants to see for state plans that are pretty easy to meet. Others are unworkable. So we do have grave concerns with the current status of the interim final rule, as we believe it ignores the practical realities of hemp farming, sampling, testing, manufacturing, all of the above. So in a response to kind of this public outcry and pressure from the industry, USDA reopened the comment period, which ends October 8th on these interim final rules. Here's a link to submit comments to for yourself. Midwest Hemp Council will be submitting comments, both the DEA and USDA. Our comments to the USDA interim final rule will closely mirror our original comments. So we encourage you to, again, take the time, submit comments to make sure your voice is heard in the development of this process. Okay, so the extension of the 2014 Farm Bill. So as I mentioned, there's a lot of concern with the current interim final rule that USDA produced. As a result, Congress added language in a continuing resolution that President Trump signed on October 1st. And what that did was it extended the sunset for the 2014 Farm Bill programs until September 30th of 2021. So they extended it a year. The way the 18 Farm Bill is written, it allowed a year grace period or transition period for 14 hemp programs to transition to 18 hemp Farm Bill programs. So while this is an awesome recognition that the IFR is pretty unworkable for hemp farmers, it does have the effect of creating winners and losers. So what I mean by that is there's going to be certain farmers who are allowed to operate under a much more lax standard of testing. So here in Indiana, we're a total THC state. Other farmers, if they're operating under 14 Farm Bill, could potentially be operating under Delta 9 only state. So that takes off a lot of risk on the farmer in terms of being able to harvest a crop, and also makes their crop more valuable because they can, they have a higher cannabinoid content because of that difference between total THC versus Delta 9. And that language is in section 122 of the link here to the continuing resolution if you want to take a look at it. So how does this all impact Indiana's 2021 growing season? Well, I'll be the first to tell you it depends. And Don, I think, will do an excellent job of walking us through what this means for Indiana, what it means for our regulations, and what it means for growers and manufacturers and processors for the 2021 growing season. So with that, I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen, Jamie. We're going to leave a lot of time for questions at the end. So I look forward to those, and I look forward to hearing Don's presentation.
I'm gonna get right into it because there's some really interesting stuff that Justin talked about that causes us sleepless nights in the regulatory world, and probably causes you some sleepless nights in the grower and handler world. So I'm going to get right into the regulations. The emergency rule is in place, so we are operating under rules. That happens in a 90-day period at a time, and we just renewed the emergency rules. We will have what we hope to be our emergency rule that becomes the permanent rule in place January 2021. That depends on whether the state plan is approved or not. Justin didn't talk about this. I'm just going to briefly say this because we don't regulate smokable hemp, but right now smokable hemp is illegal. So it's in Indiana at least, probably the only state, but it's illegal in Indiana. I believe there's some action coming from Justin that may try to fight that. So state plan was submitted for the 4th time. This is a frustrating process. I don't have to hide my feelings about this. It's a very frustrating process dealing with the USDA. While on one front, they seem to be very cooperative, helping us with language that we need to have. It's like a different teacher is grading the test every time we submit a plan. So things that were approved once were not approved the second time. So most of the requested revisions from the USDA are minor each time. A couple of them have been a little bit more major. We've worked hundreds and hundreds of hours on it. Received the response October 1st that our third submission was not accepted, and we resubmitted again October 5th yesterday with the required changes. That being said, we may have gotten a little bit smarter this time. Well, what we did is we just submitted the changed documents instead of the entire plan again. So we're hoping that they don't even go looking for the other documents and they only look at what we changed this time. That's not really what they want us to do, but there was no language stating that we couldn't do that. So that's what we're going for. 2020 crop update. I am going to fly through this because we've got some more bigger fish to fry at the end here. Most fields are doing well. Sample request forms have rolled in consistently now for about the last 6 to 8 weeks. New diseases are being seen for the first time in Indiana. New insects, I believe, and Marguerite probably is the best one to talk about that. Crop value continues to decrease on places like hemp benchmarks, things like that. And it's plummeted in the last 3 years based on perceived value of, or perceived amount of biomass that's sitting out in the fields as compared to what is going to be used. So processors are in place. There's a few processors in Indiana that are up and running. However, we do have at least one that was built out, then decided that they couldn't make a profit based on prices of about 65 cents to $1 per pound of biomass. So it sits idled and it's for sale or lease. New DEA guidance is very troubling, as Justin said, cannot process crude CBD if that is enforced. So we encourage you to make your comments as we have made ours. Still no fiber processors are up and running in the state. That's very troubling as well, because we do believe that Indiana is in a great place to be a major fiber producing state once we actually get some fiber processors. Up general crop numbers, Justin showed that we had 5,300 acres last year. We had licensed about 8,900 acres this year. One thing that we have to get fixed moving forward that is not yet fixed is accurate calculations of what is actually grown. And we got the 8,900, but we only know of about 500 acres canceled in 19-acre average. So we know that more acres of that have been canceled this year. We just don't have the official documents saying that. So as we have a state plan approved by the feds, that will not be acceptable. I can just tell you right now. We have to have very detailed records on a regular basis. When a field is canceled, it has to go through actually canceling with us and with the Farm Service Agency, and it has to happen right away. So we're not getting that information currently from very many growers, and that is not acceptable moving forward if we have a state plan approved. 1.76 million square feet of indoor, 100,000 square foot was canceled and we've got a 10,000 square foot average. We did have 283 licenses issued as of last week. We got 2 more going out today that are handlers that are going to be working with this year's crop, kind of emergency applications that came in late in the game. 39 of those are handler only, 1,000 grow sites and handler sites compared with 435 last year. CBD, we had 442 grow sites, fiber, 38 grow sites, other, which did include smokable hemp because it was legal when the year started. Again, something that's From a grower standpoint, I'm sure very troubling is smokable hemp was legal when the year started. Now it's not. So a lot of growers trying to get back into the CBD market or CBG market off that crop. Grain, seed, and oil, 54 grow sites, 615 acres. So I'm flying through this stuff. State heat map. Justin and the Midwest Hemp Council were instrumental in helping me to get this heat map growing, as was the State Department of Agriculture. The darker green is where more hemp is grown. The gray counties are where no hemp is grown. So you can see some pockets where there's nothing grown. You see central and northern Indiana is where more hemp is grown. There is a processor coming online down in Jefferson County. So down in here, if you can see my, I don't think you can see my cursor, but down in by Clark and Scott, Jefferson County, in southeastern Indiana, there is a new processor coming online. So we think the southern Indiana is going to get more growing as well. Harvest numbers. So roughly 20% of the crop has gone hot so far. Compare that to over 30% last year. We think that's due to a strong education and information campaign to test early and test often. Only one has gone very hot, and that is very hot. Last Friday, we had one that we tested at 13%. The grower's own samples came in at over 17% THC. So that is marijuana, dispensary level marijuana. Was involved in helping to get that crop destroyed. Just so everyone will know, I'm also involved in helping that grower possibly get some of his money back, because the people that sold him the seed are from California and did not have a seed permit in California or Indiana. So that's against the law to sell seed without a seed permit. And so we are working with the California Department of Food and Agriculture. Also, the seed was shipped via United States Postal Service, and we are working on behalf of that grower to see if we can get a something going on to get a postal inspector involved in that. So hopefully we can help this grower who was not sold what he thought he was buying. Very clear, the packaging says CBD, no THC, and in this particular case, it was very high THC. So there we go with that. THC collection by date with the trend line. One thing I want to make sure everybody understands, it's pretty well understood in the regulatory community that the farther you go into the season, the more THC levels are going to spike, with the possible exception of CBG crops. The trend line just goes up and up and up until you get into late October, and then the trend line starts dropping back down again. So these are primarily outdoor grows, but you see the higher spikes that start in mid-September and continue on through mid-late October. So the later you go, the more you're going to have THC in your crop, especially with CBD crops. That still happens in the fiber and grain, although the highs are a little bit lower. THC by variety. If anybody saw a presentation I did about a month ago, this looks very different now because it's been updated as of today. So that bar chart on the right there shows the 12 or 13% THC. You see other crops that average 2 to 3%. So as you get about halfway across that chart, what you'll see is we've tested now probably close to 100 different varieties, or maybe a little bit more than that now, and about half of them average being hot. So when we say to do your research and make sure you're buying good genetics from known suppliers, these guys over here, poor guys, I'll say poor guys over here on the far right of this graph, where you can't even read it, got taken. They were sold marijuana seed, and we're doing our best to help alleviate that situation. But it's a buyer beware situation when you're buying hemp seed. Make sure you're buying seed that is proven to be CBD seed and proven to be compliant. We are trying, we don't have this done yet. We've got the chart on Marguerite's website that we're going to try to update with this chart in a more usable form. But we're going to try to have the updated what goes hot, what doesn't go hot chart to Marguerite here soon, so she can put that on our website and everybody can see what varieties are good to look at and which ones consistently go hot. Harvest numbers. Here's a couple of varieties that consistently go hot. Oregon Cherry, Bubba Remedy, Sunstrands Proprietary from last year, Uno, Cherry Wine, Trump, and Mammoth are the ones that have most often gone hot out of the 106 failed tests as of last week. Now we're going to switch gears. I'm going to slow down just a little bit and talk about software and licensing a little bit for 2021. In November, I'm doing a presentation where we'll go through all of the software and licensing. And you guys are probably on the email for that. Robert at Green Sense Farms is going to do that presentation. Our software will be up and running by then. So we'll have the whole shooting match there. But plan is to start licensing November 1st. Software is being built out. You'll see a little preview of that today. Fees apply, $750 application fee for both a grower and a handler. I get some pushback on that number, so I'll go over what that entails. Once I go over what that entails, the pushback typically goes away. I didn't say the disappointment goes away, but the pushback typically goes away. Change fees. Change to a field location is $50. In some states, that's $500. In some states, that's $1,000. We are $50 on that. Application fees in California are $90 per grow site, or I'm sorry, $900 per county that you have a grow site in. So if you're like many of our growers and have grow sites in multiple counties, you could easily get into the $4,000 to $5,000 license fees in California. Same way with some other states. Ours is $750, and that gets you any grow site in the state that you are signed up for. Most reports to USDA are being built into the software, so you don't physically have to report to the USDA. You report to us, and we take care of the USDA report.
I would say
all current crop must be destroyed or harvested by October 31st. That was just changed last week. I didn't get my slide updated, but I'm glad I didn't. I left it in here for this very reason. We now have reprieve from that. That is one good thing that came out of the USDA last week. You can have your crop growing as long as it's still compliant through the end of your license period, which is December 31st, 2020. So I want to go over that again. It was October 31st. We informed everybody of that multiple times throughout the growing season. That has now changed, and now you get the opportunity to continue to let your crop grow. This is especially important for indoor growing sites where you're on a rotation basis. Okay, this is very important for the 2021 season. Key participants and background checks. This is something that you can be working on right now to be ready to get your license right at the 1st of November. I'm going to read some of this because it is very important that you understand. A key participant is an employee working in a licensed business with multiple employees within the business in which one or more of the following conditions applies. one who is in a supervisory role with the hemp grow site or hemp production site, the hemp lab, the hemp processing site. An example is a person who is a supervisor responsible for transit of a crop production, seed purchase, planting, sale of harvested crop, receipt of a crop in a processing facility, or one who oversees workers who perform duties for which workers are in contact with hemp. One who is otherwise deemed necessary to be subjected to this provision by a business entity, and contract growers, hemp cooperatives, and similar entities are not exempt from the licensing requirements under this section. That is pretty well copied from the USDA. So that is something that did not change. We can't get around that. And we probably don't want to get around that. We want key people in a business, key people on a farm to be licensed and to be a key participant. So what this is saying is the business or farm entity does not have to have everyone licensed. They can have one license for the farm and then get all the key people as a key participant, and they can get a background check. So the background check portion has to be done a maximum of 60 days prior to the application date. So I get a lot of questions from doctors who have to do a drug test and get a federal background check. As long as that's been done within the last 60 days prior to your application, that's good with us. You can upload that on our application website. If it has been done earlier in the year, which seems to be the case in many cases, then that does not qualify you for this background check for your hemp license. I will also say that when we click on this link, and I'm going to go ahead and live click on this, do something that's, is everybody seeing the identity history summary checks now?
It's not coming up yet.
Don, you're likely going to have to share the web browser screen if you want to do that.
Okay. All right, let me try to do that. Here we go. Okay, is now everybody see it?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the identity history summary checks website for that the USDA has linked in their interim final rule for the background checks. Indiana has been doing background checks through the Indiana State Police Portal. That has been something that is most of the time working okay. Sometimes it doesn't. Like as an example, that was down for the last 10 days and I couldn't do background checks and I couldn't license these two companies that needed to help people process their hemp here in a key season. So this part is up and running. Identity history summary checks. It does say on here that it is not for employment or licensing, but this is the site that we're told to send everybody to. I will tell you that there's two ways to do that. One is to do directly to the FBI electronically. That is going to be a lot faster. I think you're only going to be a few weeks out if you do that. The other one is to do it directly to the FBI via mail. I think they are multiple weeks out on the mail. So here's the catch. If you want to do your FBI summary check through the FBI electronically, you have to go to one of the U.S. Postal Office locations that are accepting and doing the electronic fingerprints. That's the catch. So if you go to this, there are only 101 post offices in the United States. I know there's one in Indianapolis that does this. So if you're in Elkhart or Evansville or Angola, you've got a couple of options here. You can drive to the one in Indianapolis, get an appointment, get that done, get it knocked out, and you're in good shape. When you are, if you want to do it through the mail, you can probably go to another post office that does fingerprints for things like a passport, and that would take a little bit longer, actually quite a bit longer. So if you are a current grower of hemp in Indiana, we would encourage you to drive to Indianapolis, or if you're closer to Chicago, you can go to Chicago. If you're closer to Cincinnati, maybe you can go to the one in Cincinnati, or maybe Columbus, Ohio, if that's closer. Drive to the closest place and get that done electronically, so you don't run out of license before the end of the year. So that's our official guidance on that. I'm going to share another screen now, and I'm going to do our website. Let me make sure I've got this. Okay. We're getting there. We're not quite there yet. Let me pull up. Sorry, this is the first time I've done this on the fly. So here we go. You should soon see something that says My Corporation at the top left.
Uh-huh. We see
You see
it.
that now?
Uh-huh.
Okay, you are the world's first to see this outside of OISC and outside of the software company. So My Corporation out of North Carolina is the company we've been working with. We've had multiple meetings per week with this company. They have been fantastic to work with. If you can imagine, Justin said we're building this from scratch without funding. Software is not cheap. If any of you have built out licensing software that has to play into effect on every screen, the rules, the statutes, federal and state statutes that come into play here. So one of the things that comes into play while we're talking about this screen here is grow sites have to be tracked exactly. The way we've done it the last few years has been a little bit loose, and that can no longer happen. We have to be exact, and we're going to build in software into the software and display this in November, where you can be exact with your software grow sites. Every grow site must be reported to the Farm Service Agency, because hemp is an agricultural crop, and all agricultural crops must be reported to the Farm Service Agency in your county. There's an office in just about every county. Right now, they're not all manned, so you may have to go to a county over or up from where you're at, but there are ways to do that. Find the Farm Service Agency in your county just by Googling Farm Service Agency Jennings County as an example. Farm Service Agency Morgan County, or Jamie probably. So you can do that. Find the agency office in your location. Once the hemp crop is planted, you must, I say must with capital M-U-S-T, you must report your crop, and you must plant your crop now no longer commingled. The crop must be a variety on a planting site. That variety on a planting site is going to be a sub-field number. So if you have 5 acres and you have 7 varieties and you're not putting them out in small plots, each field number would be a little less than an acre, right? 7 varieties on 5 acres. If you do a rotational planting, so you've got 5 rows of one variety, 5 rows of another variety, that 5 rows is a planting site. That is a sub-field number. So we have to get everybody thinking in sub-field numbers. It probably will change the way you plant your fields. We will do a live view of this sometime probably in November, where we can help people determine that. So they're planting more in line with what would be a regular field crop. I know that doesn't necessarily fit hemp, but that's the way the rules are designed right now. So we're going to go on to the home screen here on this corporation. That's where you're at. There are a few licensed companies on our test site here that have completed. You can see a grow site number 1 was completed. Grow site number 2 is needed for Smithtown Enterprises. And we've got a fake license number there for Joe Grow Co., another fake license number. Grow site 1, still information is needed. Grow site 2 is completed. So you will see what you need to do when you go to your home screen. So all of these things are something that you'll need to work on. Notifications over here, application sent for revisions. So if we don't approve your application, you will see that. You'll number 1, get an email telling you why we didn't approve your application. In 99 times out of 100, there will be for a revision. If someone, as an example, has a failed background check, then you will get a license sent back denied. So for revisions and denied are 2 different things. We don't typically get denied for background checks because people know that you can't have a drug conviction in the last 10 years before you apply. So now we're going to go to the application. So I put in a fake fake company in here. So this is the test site of the website. We're going to go through application information, license type, and key participants today. The meat of it is over here, and that's not ready to show yet. So company, we're going to apply as a company. I've already put in here Happy Hempsters Merry Melodies as the company. I had to grab a name that nobody would ever use, so that's what we did there. I put in company information here, Happy Hempsters Merry Melodies. Fred Kabertskowitz is the applicant full legal name. Even if you are applying as a company, we still need a full legal name because the company can't have a background check. It has to be a person with a background check. That's still part of the federal law. So I put in the legal mailing address, telephone number, a fake email because it's a test site, and then company physical address is the same as the mailing address. If I had clicked when I did this, that the company mailing address was different, then it would give me the option of putting in a different mailing address, different physical address than the mailing address. So we're getting everybody's opportunity to put in that information. If you have a business, the EIN number is federally required starting for the 2021 season. So primary business contact name and the EIN number, which is typically a 10-digit number that won't be all ones. You'll have it on your LLC number or on your business license applicant draft. So here we go. You can go to license type here, or you can click over here on the right on license type and go to that. I have clicked on grower, and I want to do that for a couple of reasons. A grower, this is a good time to talk about why we have $750 license fee or application fee. The reason we have that is because number 1, we've got software, which is very expensive, very well into the 6 figures to build the software. Number 2, we have chemists and equipment and labs at Purdue that are dedicated to only doing hemp. We have, that is not cheap. If you can imagine what a university PhD chemist cost. We have multiple chemists working on this project, and the gas chromatography machines, the liquid HPLC liquid chromatography machines, the software, the people, the inspectors that work on hemp at the expense of other regulatory uses during the winter. So we had to hire extra people to do that. So we've got multiple reasons why that $750 fee is there. As I mentioned before, Illinois, I believe, has a lower upfront fee, but it's $1,000, if I'm not mistaken, to change a grow site. We're $50 to change a grow site. When it comes down to it, Washington State is $1,500 license fee. California is $900 per county of a grow site. We are $750 for a grower, and a grower can do all of the growing, processing, drying, transporting of their own crop under a grower license. You must have a grower contract or letter of intent. That's still a requirement. We're not wanting people to keep flooding the market with unused product until we get enough. That will go away once we get enough processors and we know the crop can be sold. If you are a university employee who will use a license for research purposes, you would check there. So Marguerite, for the grow sites at Purdue, would check that box. This is not for someone who wants to continue to do research on their own farm while they are growing. You must be a university employee doing university work to check that box. If you are handling someone else's crop, then you will be a handler. And that includes processing, drying for others, transporting, labs, that type of thing. So if you are a handler and a grower, so you're going to grow your own crop, you're going to process your own crop, but you're going to grow for someone else, then that will be $750 here and $750 there. If you are a lab, you'll check here and put your DEA lab number in the box here. If you are a third-party sampler, which is required by the DEA, or I'm sorry, by the USDA and required by our rules, if you're a third-party sampler, a CCA, Certified Crop Advisor, then you'll put in your Certified Crop Advisor license right here. So you probably wouldn't be a laboratory, a grower, and a CCA. So I'll just uncheck these boxes and we'll just go with grower here. Hopefully that explanation helped everybody with what's going on. Now we're going to move over to the last part. We're going to show key participants. Because I showed what a key participant is, now we're going to show you how to add a key participant. I've got the Happy Hempsters Merry Melodies company. We're a large company, but today I'm just going to add one key participant. This key participant, I bring up the name. I'm going to put in here Jamie Petty as my key participant. I didn't misspell, but I didn't capitalize that. Job title, superintendent. Probably misspelled. Email address, Jamie at hemp is us. And I'm going to be in a position where I'm going to choose a file. This file you're going to choose is for the background check that you get sent by the FBI. You're going to upload that file to us. Now, we understand, let me just say this, and I'll say this every time. We understand that not everyone who is going to apply for a hemp license is pure as the driven snow and has never had a run-in with the authorities. For that exact reason, when you choose that file, you're going to pick a license, pick your license, you're going to upload it, and when you do that, you're going to put your history out there for all of us to see at OISC who are involved in this. By the way, there's only going to be a few people who can see this. When we see this, when you get your license, all of this information you have uploaded here, only the name, job title, and email address stays on our servers. We have made it very clear to the software developers, very clear to everyone at OISC, that this is private information that never gets seen by anybody other than those involved in doing the licensing approval. So if you got caught stealing a car when you were 21 years old, that's going to show up on your background check. We're going to see that. That will have nothing to do with whether you get your license or not. When you save this, when you click save, we will see that because we have to look for drug offenses. And then once we see that, once you get your license, it goes away. As soon as you get your license, that is deleted off the server like it was never there. So I'm going to click save here, and it's going to come up and say, unable to edit participant, upload FBI background check result is required. At every spot in this process, if you try to do something that you can't move through because you didn't upload the background check or you didn't check a box, you'll get a warning sign that says, hey, you can't move forward until you've done that. So that's the part I'm able to share right now. A cool site that you're going to want to see when we can share it is the spot where we're going to show the grow sites, and that will be done with mapping this year. Instead of having to have you guess your latitude and longitude, we have to get a lot cleaner on latitude and longitude. That's not been a really good system the last couple of years, and it's caused some problems for some growers because the police can't find your site. It looks like a, for whatever reason, it may look like a marijuana site because maybe your crop didn't grow very well, and all of a sudden you've got 110 plants out of the 1,500 that you planted. It looks like a marijuana site because it's well maintained, it's behind the woods, and we have to get involved with the police and say, no, that's actually a legal hemp site. So they will have access to this to show them where the legal hemp sites are. This will be a very much used system to make sure we're protecting growers from illegal activities. So that's what I've got. I know I went very long, but hopefully showing some things that you hadn't seen before.
Don, thank you so much. What I'd like to do is have you and Justin kind of be prepared here. We have several questions that have been submitted that I'd like to run by you. And Justin, I think the first few of these are probably in Don's wheelhouse, but we do have a couple for you as well. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So Don, question number one, where will the list of CCAs that can sample the crop be located?
They will be, that's not quite been determined yet. We haven't determined whether we're going to put that on our regular Oyster Hemp website or whether it will be in the software. But it will be available to everybody that has a license.
Thank you. Next question. What is the current measurement of uncertainty and will it change for 2021?
Okay, the current measurement of uncertainty, there's actually two of them, depends on what machine it's run on. So I'm going to give you the smallest one. That way we can be on the same page. The smallest one is 0.09. So if you are at 0.39 on one of our tests, then you are good to go. We don't think there's any reason why that measurement of uncertainty will change next year unless we, for some reason, maybe the machine goes down, it has to be recalibrated. That's a possibility, but we really doubt that will be changed.
Okay, thank you. And if it's kind of a last shot, so if anyone has any questions, please shoot them into the chat box as we pursue answers to a few more things. So you have a few minutes to submit your questions to the chat box. Next question. If I am approved to grow for 2021 and I decide to become a handler later in the year, will I be able to go in and check the handler box and pay the additional $750?
Yes, absolutely. Yep, it is a flowing software. It remembers where you can actually get halfway through the handler application and save it and go back later and update that. So yeah, it's a smart system. We wanted to build that in, so all you'd have to do is check that box. We encourage, it's not required, but we encourage everyone to use a credit or debit card to pay their fees because that will approve the license much quicker. It will accept but delay your license if you want to use a cashier's check to pay. We're not accepting personal checks for obvious reasons with licensing, but if you pay with a cashier's check, then as soon as that check clears, then you'll get your license.
Okay, thank you. Give me 1 second. And I know we've all discussed this, but we've had some people come in a little bit late, and I actually see some new names here, so this will be helpful. Can you confirm where we stand right now, that 2021 will not be a research year again, or do you believe it is possible?
Okay, so there's a small possibility, very small, for a couple of reasons. Even though the president signed the extension of the 2014 Farm Bill that Justin talked about, for us to have it be a research year again means that our state plan was not approved, and we're very close to that. Means that we will throw away the money we put into the software because the software was not designed with ever using it as a research only software. We would have to go back to the manual process we used this year, and we don't have any way to collect fees through a manual process. If you can imagine a major university, all the fees collection has to go through a very specific system called TouchNet, and all the marriages have to happen between your credit card information and the TouchNet system through this software. So we don't have any way to effectively charge fees. We have invested probably, I'm throwing a number out here, but I don't have the exact number. We've probably invested $750,000 in the hemp program over the last few years, and we are required by statute to cover our own fees, and we're not doing that at this point. So I don't see much of a way, but because of the law that was signed, or the extension that was signed last week, I can't say it's not possible to be research again. We don't want it to be research. We want it to be commercial so that people can not have to go get a researcher, not have to put a research proposal together, not have to go through all those cumbersome steps. We want people to be free to grow the crop licensed as was originally designed.
Okay, great. Thanks. Justin, how are you right now? Anything you want to weigh in on, or I can move on to the next question?
No, just go ahead.
Okay. A couple people have asked, they'd like a little bit of a clarification where the handler license stops. So as a wholesaler or retailer.
Once it becomes a product, you don't need a handler's license. You don't need a hemp license. So as an example, I think I saw something in the chat. If you have a product that you're going to rebottle, you don't need a handler's license because it's already a product. If you are creating tinctures from a raw hemp product, you do need a handler's license. So if you are taking a product that's already packaged in some form, could be in a barrel with a label on it. If you're taking that product and repackaging it, you don't need a handler's license or a grower's license. If you are changing it and turning it into a product, you do need the handler's license. OIST works on and regulates raw hemp material. We do not regulate products in the hemp world.
And I would add too that Don is about to release here shortly a revised FAQ. So in addition to this being recorded and sent back out to our members, there will also be a FAQ from Don and his team so that you'll have some of these. I recognize some of these questions, so they'll be answered there as well.
I think we'll have that out by the end of the week.
Okay.
That's the plan.
All right. Next is, we've addressed all those. I had a couple questions regarding Delta 8. So Justin and Don, I don't know if you guys want to both tackle that or not, but.
I'll let Justin do that one.
So that's a great question, and I meant to address that when I was talking about DA's interim final rule. So I appreciate the question. Right now, it's really just a really hazy legal area. If you read DA's interim final rule, it essentially states that any synthetically derived THC remains a Schedule I substance. So that, if that interim final rule remains in effect and the DEA starts enforcing that, then I think there's a lot of trouble for that market. One reason why Delta 8 is so popular, I think, right now is because there's a lot of excess CBD out there, and people are recognizing, manufacturers in particular are recognizing there's a lot more value in turning that CBD and synthesizing that down to Delta 8 for their bottom line. As I mentioned earlier, there is a lawsuit challenging the interim final rule, so that remains to be seen what's going to happen. But as right now, DA's come out and said it's not really a priority enforcement for them right now.
Okay.
And Jamie, I want to be respectful of Don's time, so maybe just one or two more, and then we'll probably have to cut Don loose here.
I agree. Someone, so a question was raised about what we discussed, I think, very early on in some way to track who's growing what. Where's their CBD grow in comparison to a fiber grow?
Right. There's really not there's an appetite among hemp growers to do that. No question. That makes a lot of sense. What we probably can do, but this is not something that's built into the software to automatically do. What we probably can do is take those that check the box for I want, which is a later box, we didn't show it today. There's a box on there whether you want to be confidential or not confidential. I may be able to change that wording a little bit and say I'd like to show my grow sites to, or let's say this. We're too close to being ready for the software. I'm not going to change that language. But those that say they want to be not confidentials, they want to share their information, I may be able to send a separate email and say, please let me know whether you want to share your grow sites with only other hemp growers. Now, I don't think there's any legal ramifications on that, but I've got to verify that before I do. But that's something that we've kind of played with a little bit. If you want that to be done, I'm sure that's a subset of the original set. But once we get that information back and say, we can share those field locations, then I'm sure that we could put together something out of the software and share it. The problem is that's then going to be a shareable file. That's the real problem. Then it becomes a shareable file, and it becomes something that can get outside of that network pretty quickly. That's one of the reasons we didn't do anything about that this year. So we'll have to figure out a way to maybe build that into the software, not at the front end, but as we go through the year, maybe that's a second loop of things we can work on. Great idea, valuable idea, fantastic for what needs to happen. It's just not built into how the law reads right now. So we'll have to try to figure out something we can do within the law and make it where it's not shareable.
And the only other alternative, and I know some people did this year, and excuse my terminology, but with drift watch or
Yes.
field
Yes.
watch,
Yes.
you could choose to do that, but again, you're still not looking at 100% results. So
Right. Right. As an example, we had 8,900 acres of hemp licensed this year, and the people that followed through and put their hemp on the Farm Service Agency reports was only 3,000 acres of that 8,900 acres. So those are the type of things that we got to get cleaned up in a rapid fashion as we move forward.
okay. So one last quick question, and I feel like you guys have addressed this, but with specificity, do you feel that there are specific changes to the current planting, current harvest based upon the bill that was just signed? And what I heard was that it primarily allowed people to continue growing to December 31st.
Right. Right. That's the primary
something else
change.
you or Justin feel should be shared, please do that.
I think from our perspective, that's the primary change.
Okay.
Where if we were a state that really didn't have a plan put together yet, I think that makes a major difference for us. But we're in the 4th submission of the state plan, and we're only now 9 days away from when state plans have to be, the final result has to be sent to the USDA. So I don't see a major change for us other than that same document editing allowed for the crop to grow past October 31st if it's compliant. That does not change. If the crop has been sampled, you have officially sampled, you have 15 days from then to get the harvest in. That doesn't change that. It just means that now you can allow a compliant crop, say a young crop, to fully mature.
Okay. Thank you very much, Don and Justin, for your time. Thanks to all of you for participating. I would encourage you, Midwest Hemp Council does we're very consistent in pushing out the information from not only OISC, but on a federal level. Our Midwest Hemp Policy Circle call is on the 2nd Tuesday of every month, and it's a really great opportunity for our members to hear directly from Justin as what's going on federally and locally. And then please, Don and Marguerite and I kind of laugh, but Don doesn't send very many emails, but when he does, they're very important. So please make sure he's not going to your spam. Make sure that you're receiving those emails and taking time to absorb those.
Jamie, if I may, if I may here, guys, I get thousands and thousands and thousands of emails. If I don't reply to an email that you sent me within the first day or two, please call me or send me an email again. It is possible to miss one. We're up over 30,000 emails now about hemp since the Farm Bill. So, I was talking to my son the other day about he said he gets 3 emails a day. I get 200 a day. Some days on a weekend, if I take the day off, I get 500. I can guarantee you that, because I'll come back to it.
Yeah. Well, Don, thanks again for everything, and we just encourage all of you to join us with the information. We try to make it as readily available as possible, and also we will be, as Justin mentioned, we're going to be launching the Hemp at the Crossroads. Registration will be open no later than Monday. And of course, Don and his team will be there. Justin will be there. We're going to have some great resources and agronomy. So be watching for how you can participate and get involved. Justin, anything from you?
No, thanks, guys. Appreciate your time, Don. Thanks, as always, for helping us get the information out there as quick as we can. I'm sure hopefully everyone found this pretty valuable as they plan for the 2021 season.